What's up, peace, y'all? We're back with another interview. This time we're back to school board, District 7 region. We have Clifford Thomas, who is running for a school board down in DP Oakland. I cannot wait to hear what he has to share with us about his plan for our babies. Our babies and our elders are our societal bookend. And we fail either one of them, everything falls apart. As you see in the streets of Oakland right now, it looks like we're falling apart. But hopefully Mr. Thomas has a plan to bring us back together. So without further ado, Clifford, Mr. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us. Please take a quick 30 seconds to say hello, what's your name, what neighborhood you live in, and then we'll get started with the questions.
Great. Thank you very kindly. My name is Dr. Clifford Thompson. I live out in what's called Deep East Oakland. I live on 106th. Been a teacher for many, many years, administrator, coordinator of secondary education, college professor, wasn't ready to retire, so went back into the classroom. And so I'm teaching sixth grade presently in Richmond, California, where my students are excelling like crazy.
Wow, sixth grade, is that's like, do you still get like all the different classes you teach, or have they broken them up then? Is that middle school yet, or they?
Yeah, right now it's considered middle school, to be very honest. And so what we're doing is what's called departmentalization. So I'm teaching all math and science. In addition to that, I do, because I have my kids for some time, I have my core classroom, and I do teach some of the language arts.
Oh, nice. And then foreign languages or English?
In English only. Right now, everything is English, but I have taught French as a beyond and a course of beyond for my kids that are considered gifted and talented. So I've introduced them to French.
Oh, so you are a father as well?
Yes, I am. I'm a father. As a matter of fact, I'm a father of one son. I was a single father, as a single parent, as a matter of fact. I raised my son myself. And my son went to elementary schools here in Oakland, graduated from Skyline High School.
Nice.
Many years ago,
though. Okay. Oh, you're OG. How old? I'm 45. How old is your son?
My son is a little bit older than you. My son.
Oh, my son, man, you look good, brother. You're looking good.
Thank you very kindly, sir. Thank you very kindly.
We need some sage wisdom in right now in Oakland, because let me tell you what's going on in these school district. My partner, she teaches at Castlemont High School.
One of my schools.
Nice. I've been involved with Prescott Elementary, with food justice, with our community garden, working with Wanda, who work with all types of people. And it's just so much potential. But Oakland is we always talk about our potential. I'm tired of that. It's time to make it happen.
Exactly.
Okay. We got some serious questions.
Okay, sure.
You are currently on the school board, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, sir. Yeah,
okay.
I'm ready for re-election.
What are y'all doing about this lead in the schools? There's lead everywhere. The buildings are outdated. Do you feel that what we're doing right now in the school board is enough in OUSD? And if not, what are you planning on adding if you get reelected?
If I get reelected, I really want to continue to help us refocus our attention on the academic growth that the kids need. Now, I introduced and passed a resolution. I was co-author that said that it's time for us to increase the academic growth of our kids in reading, and also increase the academic growth in math. Also, what I wanted to do is make sure that all of our kids get exposure to, proficiency in, and participation in A to G requirements, so we could stop graduating these kids from high school and then they're not ready for college. My thing is, if
I don't want to cut you off. I like the answer, but maybe I have a speech impediment, so maybe I wasn't clear. I'm talking about the lead and the pipes.
Okay, no problem at all. I'll go right straight to the lead. The lead is a big problem that we are addressing at the school board. We have instituted what's called flow water systems in every single school that if a building was built before 1974, approximately, we have made sure that every single school has good drinking water right now. So we've implemented flow water systems. We've stopped everything else to make sure that our kids are taken care of. So we have the flow water system in the school. We have several schools who are on the Measure Y list for renovation. So those schools, of course, have the flow water in right now. But then when they're innovative, when they're reconstructed, we're going to make sure that they have copper pipes so that there will be no lead in any water for any kid that's going to any school in Oakland.
Amen. Well,
Yes.
is there anything else you would like to see added in the upcoming? I'm sorry, we're in the school year now. I have no children,
No
so my
problem at
frame of
all.
reference to school we are, but we are 2 months into school or 1 month into school. Did we
Yes.
add anything this year? Are there water bottles for the children? A lot of parents were complaining.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we have added water bottles for the kids. We have every child in every school will have access to a reusable water bottle, and they could just go to the flow water system, fill up their water bottle with good, wholesome water, and then they'll have a whole bottle full of water to last them for however long it does. And then when they need to refill it again, just go back with a reusable bottle to fill it up, and then come back in and just continue their education.
Now, in your experience, do children even drink water, or they be drinking them energy drinks? What do children drink? Are they water drinkers these days? What's going on with the
Some
sixth
kids
graders?
are. I'm actually back in the classroom, and but I'm teaching over in Richmond because you cannot teach and be on the school board in the same district. So I'm teaching in Richmond, and
I
so
did not know that.
Yeah, I'm teaching at Richmond at King Elementary. And so I'm in the classroom, and my kids have the opportunity to have a water bottle all day long. And then I give them, of course, anytime they wish to go fill up their water bottle to have it, to have a drink anytime they wish during the school day.
You make them check it. You make them show it to you so they don't try to pull one over on you, bud.
Well,
Kids are
under
smart, man.
normal circumstances, they know how I am. I'm one of these walk around teachers, and see, I will ask in a minute. Let me see what this is. If I can't
Yeah,
see
what's in
through
that
it, then
bottle?
I want to see what it is exactly.
Oh, you better. Even sixth grade, you never know. So,
Boy,
you brought up
exactly.
something interesting. You can't teach in OUSD
No,
and be a school board,
no.
but you could be a union rep in OUSD and be a school board member. You have lots of people like Valerie and Van Cedric, because I come from organized labor. I used to be the East Bay director for SCIU 1021. I've worked for California Faculty Association. I've worked for CSDU. I've worked for Local 1000 SCIU, and I've worked for another education union. So I've worked for lots of education unions, and I know a little bit about it. While they're allowing union, it seems to me like a conflict of interest when OUSD is responsible for negotiating with the labor union on behalf of teachers to allow labor union operatives. Not that I disagree with what they're doing or not. That's another conversation. But it seems odd to me that there's no. You guys, I don't know. It doesn't seem consistent. Maybe you want to bring that up.
Yeah, well, actually, what it is if you are employed by the district at all, in any capacity, if you're employed by the district, the Oakland district, you cannot be on the school board. But
that makes sense. It makes sense. I don't think that should change. I think that the union people, if you negotiate on behalf of employees, you should also not be able to be
I think
on
you
the
bring
school
up a
board.
very, very good point, because that's been somewhat a point of my contention when an individual has union relationship and still be able, well, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, being a union person, having that union relationship and still be able to be on the school board, it could present a conflict of interest.
It could be. It is.
Yeah,
You're voting on your own.
Well, see,
On
I
your
didn't want
own
to say
country. It don't get no more linear. It's a direct line, brother.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yep.
let's move it on.
Yep.
So the answer you were given before is more to this question.
Yes.
Right now, part of our public safety crisis are a bunch of young men and women who had their education disrupted during COVID, had their learning disrupted because there was a difference between poor kids who went to public schools and affluent kids who went to private schools, or anyone who went to a private school, mostly affluent. Sometimes poor kids go to private school too. But now a lot of them is running the streets. I know some of them. I think that the disruption in the education has made it more likely that many of these young men are out there playing Clockwork Orange and running around doing who knows what, robbing and stealing, raping and looting because they have no guidance. And I put a lot of that on this COVID response. Not that we never had these problems before, but these street takeovers, these masses of the youth who are just angry and rightfully so, I think it's from COVID. But I want to hear what you think. What is the current, do you think that it's been an issue with remote learning? Do you think that we're doing anything wrong now to fix it? Or what are your plans to address the gap, the learning gap due to remote learning?
That's a very good question, and you bring up some really, really good points, some salient points. And because we had the interruption in our lives because of COVID, relegated kids to being on a machine and not having human interaction. And as a result of that, many of them lost the ability to interact with humans and then understand this human connection that all of us should have. Instead, they had a machine connection, and this inanimate machine ended up taking over most of their life. And so right now, when kids came back to school, they had a very difficult time readjusting and getting back into this environment where people were always around them. And so you're absolutely correct. And so what I have done is I use 5 pillars in my classroom. One is relationship, communication, culture, consistency, and structure. Kids have to have this in order, well, all of us do as we're learning new things. We have to have this in order to be able to integrate with what's going on in our society. Excuse me. Now, directly addressing the learning gap that kids had, we as teachers, I think we need to embrace what's called direct or explicit instruction. And that is actually using, and I like the science of reading, where it takes phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. It takes those explicit 5 components and it says, okay, we have to teach the kids with these 5 components. With those 5 components, and then my 5 pillars of education, putting them together, it is almost a guaranteed success that kids are going to recover from what they lost in COVID, not only the academic part that they lost, but also the socialization that they lost. It's going to automatically cause them to come together. They're going to be married, and then the kids will excel. But too many of us are, I don't know if we are afraid, I'm not sure why we are apprehensive to embrace those 5 pillars that I mentioned, plus the 5 components of the science of reading. I'm not sure why individuals are hesitant to actually embrace them and actually use them in order to accelerate the learning that the kids lost during COVID. And that's why I co-authored the resolution to make sure that we increase the academic growth of kids in reading, ELA, and also in math. Also, that same resolution talked about making sure our high school kids not only had access to A to G, but they were actively participating in A to G. So when they graduate from high school, no longer are we going to have kids graduating from high school, but they're not qualified to go to college. And then we know that it disproportionately affects us Black and brown individuals. And we know that. And so that's one reason why I said, hey, we've got to do this. We've got to pass this resolution. We have to enact this in every school because it is disproportionately affecting the kids who have been traditionally marginalized. And it's time for us to take a stand and do something about it. I'm sorry for talking so much.
Very well
I'm
said,
sorry
Mr.
for preaching,
Thompson.
but it means a lot to me.
I should have called you Dr. Thompson in the first place, but I didn't know you were a doctor. So my apologies.
No problem at all, sir.
Relationships, accountability, culture, consistency, structure. Do I have that correct?
Relationship, instead of accountability, communication.
Communication. Okay, I
Relationship,
thought I heard that wrong. Communication.
yeah. Communication,
Culture,
culture,
consistency, structure.
consistency, and structure. Yes, those are my
Okay.
5 pillars. That and if you don't mind, I'm not going to brag, but I am going to
Oh
share this
no.
with you. If you don't mind me saying this,
Brag away.
I use that in my classroom. And when my kids came to me, I had only one student at grade level. In 8 months, using my 5 pillars and direct instruction, in 8 months, I had 9 kids at grade level in reading, and I think it was 8 kids at grade level in math.
You know, when we're talking
I
to
had
you,
nobody at math.
so here's what just came to my mind. So my mother is a career educator.
Oh, wonderful.
And she taught mostly gifted. She retired, I think last year. She finally told them she had to hang it up. She's retired, I think, 3 times and came back every year. And you guys are around the same age, I gather, because your son is slightly older than me. And it seems like people from your generation became educators because that's what they wanted to be.
Yeah.
Not because they couldn't get a job doing something else. And this was the only job that would provide a living wage and benefit. My partner included. She didn't go to school to be an educator. She became an educator, and now, 15 years later, she teaches autistic kids, and it's something that she's very passionate about. But to me, there's a difference right now when I see these young teachers, and I'm not trying to be disparaging. I just don't see people who being an educator is something that's the most important thing. I actually see people using our children as group therapy for their own insecurities or lack of whatever they feel like in their lives. And it's just a completely different culture. The way you just broke down those things from an academic framework, completely and only about knowledge retention and learning. Yes, I could see that you're Black. Yes, you pointed out that kids who are Black and brown have been marginalized and require a different type of education than kids who are more affluent communities or who, I don't even use the race as much as poor. If you're poor, you're getting a bad education in America for the most part. And Black and brown people are poor on average more so than our white neighbors, but it doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of white poor people too. But what I'm getting at in a not so succinct way is, what about mentoring inside of the educational environment? Like your generation, you one of the last ones. You may be the last OG in your school. I don't see too many people north of 68, 70 still teaching anymore. What are you doing, if anything, to mentor these younger teachers in the craft? Because mentorship is not a subordinate thing. It's mentorship. A lot of people think of mentee. We're not talking about apprenticeship. We're talking about mentorship.
Right.
And so in the mentorship, the young people keep you fresh and up the game, and you give them all the stuff you learned and mistakes you made over the years. So maybe they don't have to make them. What are you doing in that space? And is there anything that's organized in terms of a mentorship program at OUSD to make sure that this next generation of teachers that we're onboarding right now understand we don't make mistakes like, we don't make mistakes like get rid of phonics like we did in 2016 in OUSD, only to realize 2 years ago that our kids can't read anymore, and that there's nothing racist about phonics. It's simply the structural breakdown of any language. You can have phonics in Swahili. You can have phonics in whatever, Afrikaans. You can have phonics in English. And so to me, that was a product of people who did not have education at the forefront, but rather esoteric social justice goals. And that's what they want, didn't have good intentions. But in those good intentions, we have led our children on the road to hell in terms of their inability to have any reading comprehension skills. Forget literacy. Some of them are kind of literate, maybe, but their reading comprehension is abysmal, and they can't write. They can't express their thoughts. So give me your thoughts on what I just said. We got plenty of time. Go for it, man. I want to hear what you got to say about that.
That's also a very important issue. I immediately thought about years ago when I started teaching in Oakland. we had mentors. If you remember, I'm going to throw some names out now. I'm not sure if you remember or not, but Dr.
I don't have to
Alan
know them, but
Young,
people listening may know them.
Dr. Allie Whitehurst.
Oh, I
There
know
were,
Dr. Whitehurst.
yeah, Dr. Whitehurst. There were individuals who would mentor us. If we wanted to go into administration, we had what was called the MOP program. That's the Management Opportunity Program. Every single person who wanted to be an administrator had to go through that program. We had people like Dr. Alan Young, like Dr. Whitehurst, like Ellen Posey. We had individuals who actually taught us. After our day of teaching, we actually went into a classroom and we had those elders who would teach us how to become effective administrators. And I brought that up. I have to be honest. I brought that up several times at the school board. I said years ago, we had mentors. Right
So
now,
when
I
did
have
MOP
to be
end? When did the
very
MOP
honest.
program end?
The MOP to be very honest, after I finished the MOP program, I finished about 1997. I was all done with it, and I got my first administrative position here in Oakland. And I kind of lost track of whether the program was whether the program continued or not, because I remember Dr. Young, he became the assistant or associate superintendent over in Mount Diablo, I think. And then, so he left Oakland. And when he left Oakland, I didn't hear too much more about the program itself. But
Okay, so maybe late 90s, early 2000s.
yeah,
Approximately.
something
20
like
years
that.
ago or so, they got rid of it.
About 20 years. Yeah, you're right. About 20 years ago. And the program was really good because it taught us, those of us who were coming up, it taught us really the do's and the do nots of an administrator. And like I said, I don't think that kind of mentoring is given to the new teachers, the new administrators now.
It's not.
For
I can tell
example,
you it's not.
I knew, as an administrator, budget, I could read a budget back and forth. I actually I taught human resources and finance at the college level, but it's because of my experience in Oakland. That's the
Wow.
kind
So
of stuff
you
they
learned
taught us.
municipal finance and government finance being in education administration, which had to
Mhm.
stretch every dollar because we don't care about our babies. We give them the leftovers, it appears. So I have a question. Since we're talking about budgets, last year, 2 years ago, these school closures was a big issue. Now, I'm not
Yes.
going to repeat the story again I told when I was talking to brother Dwayne the other day, but
Uh-huh.
I remember going to the Prescott. Well, I am going to repeat the story, but I'm going to consolidate it. I went to the
Okay.
Prescott protest because they were
Uh-huh.
trying to close that school down, and I was livid because I love
Uh-huh.
that school. It's my school, right? That's my babies. I hear them every morning. I live right across the street. So I hear the
Okay.
kids playing and stuff. I hear them coming in. I know the parents. They're coming to my garden. And when I heard they was going to close the school, out of self-defense, I went out there to protest.
Uh-huh.
But, I'm an objective person. And so I always listen. And when I heard them talking, it didn't make any sense. And I asked somebody a question. I forgot who it was. I think it was the administrator, the brother who got cheated out of his election and had to sue to
Oh,
get back in.
Michael Hutchinson.
And I asked Mr. Hutchinson a question, and the answer I got was weird. Because I was like, why y'all got to close the schools in the first place? I don't want this school closed, but I heard that schools have to close and tough choices have to be made because of lack of enrollment. Would it be possible to repurpose these schools for young adults or other things like community centers, so we're not closing them and leaving them empty, but we're triaging and repurposing buildings? And it doesn't mean that the poor kids are going to have to bust. We may decide to close the rich kids' school and bust them into the hood. Just so, you know what I'm saying? Like, but something got to change, right? And he shot it down a little aggressive. And then I talked to the Latina lady, forget her name, who moved up north. She quit the school board. What's her name? And then she moved up north.
Shanti Gonzalez.
I talked to Shanti Gonzalez, and she gave me a lot of information that made perfect sense. I found her to be a very reasonable, clear-headed individual. And
Yes.
I'm sure you know all sides of this, so I don't need to present them. But what were your thoughts on the school closure? Do we think we navigated that correctly? And are there any consequences that we're facing now that we may have been able to dodge the bullet had we just did the hard thing and figured out which schools needed to be closed?
I think you're totally correct, and I have chills because you hit the nail on the head. Um, Instead of kicking the can down the road and not making the hard decisions that eventually, in the long run, it's going to really hurt people. We need to learn, and I call it catch the bull by the horns and let the chips fall where they may. We have to really, really make those hard decisions. I like your idea of repurposing. Maybe that building. I'm not saying get rid of the building. No, maybe the community could use that building in order to help do GEDs, help food distribution, help homeless advantages. And I think
many ideas. There's so many
ideas, and you're absolutely correct. I agree with you 100%. And if we learn to okay, let me back up. We have to make sure the district stays afloat. We don't want our district to go downhill. We want to make sure the district stays afloat so that we can get the LCFF funds that we need in order to operate the district. We want to do that. But I like what you said about, hey, think about maybe repurposing the building. Maybe you can use that building for this, and it's going to help the community. That's why, to be very, very honest, I'm very interested in community schools, because we're saying I want a community voice in how this building, how this asset is going to help to build up the community. I'm going to say this. We have to watch out, because there is an ethnic group of people, believe you me, it has changed. Back in 1984, when I moved down here, it was 54,000 kids in school, and East Oakland, let's be honest, was primarily African American.
54,000 mostly Black and brown kids in deep East Oakland.
Pardon me?
54,000 Black and brown children enrolled in OUSD in East Oakland.
54,000 enrolled, and East Oakland had a whole lot. When I say a whole lot of kids going to OUSD. And now, and I was out campaigning this morning, and I was out knocking on doors, and something happened that I don't normally do. I mean, I spent almost a half hour talking to one person, because she was asking these wonderful questions, and she was talking about having this school in her community, and what is OUSD doing to build up the school so that it'll attract more parents? That's been one of my questions that I've asked the board over and over and over and again, because I said, we have to make our schools attractive so that parents will feel good about bringing their kids to the school. And not only attractive on the outside, we have to have a strong academic program where parents will say, I don't need to take my child to this private school and pay $30,000 a year for them to go to school. I don't need to take my child to this other kind of school. I can have my child go to their neighborhood school. That's why community schools are so important. I'm sorry, so I could talk forever and ever about this.
This is the whole point of the format, and you got plenty of time to do it. We typically run around 30 minutes with these interviews. It's only 28. Some have gone as long as 40. As long as the content is relevant and actionable for the voter to learn more about you, to better cast a vote, I'm all for it. They can click off of it whenever they want to.
So thank you very much.
Don't you even worry about it. We are right on time. And it moves perfectly into the next question. Okay. What is your vision for education reform in Oakland?
My biggest vision, and I've been actually sharing this with the board for several years, and please forgive me if I get too heady on this, but we have to create articulation between elementary school, middle school. Articulation between middle school, high school, and all that means
what does articulation mean? I'm sorry, I don't follow that. I know what it means in general, but I don't understand the word for this purpose.
Okay, no problem at all. All I mean is that we have to make sure that the elementary schools know what the middle schools need them, the elementary schools, to do in preparing the kids to be successful at middle school. The same thing middle school to high school, because we have this disjointed educational system. We have to come together where there is a fluid growth between each grade level so that kids are prepared and you don't spend a whole month redoing what they should have done the year before. So my idea is, and I've been trying to promote this on the school board with the school board members and also the staff, that what we have to do is make sure you have communication. There's that word again, that my pillar, communication between the grade below the grade that the kid is going to. So example, if they're in the 6th grade, I need to know what the 7th grade teacher wants them to be able to do by the time they get in 7th grade. So I have to have
That's not happening.
That's not happening. I'm really serious. Maybe it's not happening on a formal basis. Maybe there are some teachers who might say, okay, I need to see what's happening in the 7th grade. I don't mean
ad hoc. I mean, like you just said, systemic.
It needs to be systemic. It needs to be something that happens on a continual basis. There's a discussion of professional development. Well, professional development should include making sure that the teacher before knows what the teacher after is going to be dealing with. For example, I'm in 6th grade. I teach in mathematics. I teach surface area. I teach the area, because I'm teaching math and science, I teach the area of polygons and polyhedrons. If kids in 5th grade have not been exposed to multiplication and understanding how to group, how to look visually at what is presented and saying, oh, I can think about this math problem, I can come up with it creatively, then guess what? They're lost when they come to me, because I'm teaching something that's at 6th grade level. Math becomes more abstract than it does at 5th grade level. So if you're not introducing the kids to abstractions in math in the 5th grade level toward the very end, I'll just say the very end of the school year, if you're not teaching them that, when they get to me, they're going to look totally lost. They're going to look like deer.
And then you have to teach the first month, 2 months to the school year to catch them back up where they should have been at when they first entered the door.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
And then that compounds, and over time, you're a whole year behind.
You're absolutely correct. Behind. That's exactly what it is.
Let me tell you something, brother. I went to school in Cleveland, inner city Cleveland, all the way up until 2nd semester junior year. For the most part, it was pretty serviceable, but I did have a mother who was supplementing my education, especially in terms of having to write and read. And we were very avid readers in my family, and we all read ourselves blind, so that was never an issue. You know, we're a very intense intellectual family, and education is extremely important, not just to my parents, and you know, it's a generational thing. Coretta Scott King is my grandfather's niece. And she hyphenated, and her and Martin met at the Boston Conservatory, where she was getting her 2nd master's degree. Right, to give you a sense of just how much and how long we have emphasized education. One thing I noticed when I moved from inner city Cleveland to I went to Jesse Owens High School, Homer. I went to East Technical High School, Homer Jesse Owens. And then I transferred to Charles F. Bush High School, Homer, whatever. I don't know who that is even. Who is Charles F. Bush? Who's that?
I should know. Brush?
Charles F. Bush.
Oh, Bush. You know, I know, I can't think of it right now, but I do know of it. Yeah.
He's a famous dude. He did something. I don't know. I'll look it up. I should know. It's my alma mater. I graduated there. But when I got there 2nd semester junior year, exactly what you had described happened to me in the middle of my junior year. I went to another school where I went from 1 AP physics, 1 AP English, all this stuff, right? But the next class, I wasn't prepared. And I actually had to, work for a month or so on my own. They wasn't cutting me no breaks with tutors to catch back up. Wow. Luckily, I did, because I was prepared when I went to Cornell University. I was right in line. I was ready to go and be successful in college. But I did notice that many of my counterparts who had come from inner city schools, like my previous one, were not prepared and had to take supplemental remedial classes. They called it COSEP, where it wasn't remedial, but they just brought you earlier to take some classes earlier and get you started and get your feet wet, do some testing and get you whatever. Same thing you just described. I would have had that would have been me had I not transferred to another public school. And I realized one public school 15 minutes away from another public school had two standards of education. And when I asked why, they told me that the property taxes in the suburbs were higher, so they got better education. How are we still doing our education dollars by property taxes when one group had a 400-year head start on acquiring said properties? We're supposed to have this progressive education reform, but no one ever brought up one state, one standard, which would be a simple policy solution. We're not going to have 50 different cities and 50 different education standards. We're going to have one standard in the state, and we're going to have all of our tax dollars will be. So there's not an advantage to wealthier people in public schools. Now, a lot of people will be upset because they say, well, I went to this good neighborhood and I bought there for the schools. We're not in a race to the bottom. We want to bring everyone up, right? So we're not saying that you can still have that.
Yes.
But what about, so anyway, I say that to say we have fundamentally structural problems in our allocation of resources and dollars when it comes to education. I'm not asking you a question, I'm just making a statement. And I really would like to see more discussion about that. So we are at the final part of the program. Any final messages or thoughts or messages you would like to leave with voters of why they should vote for you, Dr. Clifford Thompson, for School Board District 7, to put you back in office for another, how long have you been a school board member here?
For 4 years. It's almost 4 years.
Give you another 4 years to help bring whatever vision you're going to give us to life. You've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, I thank you very much. I want to continue the work that I've started. The board is still, it still needs to make some gains, but we've started to make the turn. And I'm excited that even though it's a little turn, the turn is being made. And I want to be there to help usher in more of a turn so that we can do things correctly. Under normal circumstances, you have a pyramid of learning, and you have most of your time should be spent on student academic issues. And then a smaller amount of your time should be spent on what I call ancillary issues. What has happened is the pyramid is inverted for us in Oakland right now. We're spending too much time on ancillary issues and not enough time on student issues. I want to help turn that pyramid so that it's correct. I want it to sit on its bottom and then spend more time discussing what we can do to help our students. Right now, our students are languishing. If we look at the predominant number of students, they're languishing. If we don't do something to step in to help them, they'll continue to languish. And as they languish, everyone knows they're going to drop further and further behind. I want to step in to usher in that change. I started with our resolution to actually change the growth of ELA and math for kids in elementary school. I also did A to G for our high school graduation rate. I want to continue all of that work. I'm working with the board right now, my colleagues, to have us have a unified voice when we come out, instead of being so desperate and then having all of these cantankerous conversations, during the board meeting. I want us to be able to be a unified force to actually move forward with what's going on. Now, that's happening somewhat. I want to stay there longer to bring us together. I have been in leadership on the board, and right now I am going to be the elder on the board to help usher in these changes that need to be made. So that's why I want to have 4 more years on the board. That's why I want to do what's necessary for not only our kids, but our entire community to move forward, because Oakland is a wonderful place. Oakland can be the greatest place on the map. It just takes a little more work. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves. I'm willing to do what's necessary in order to keep moving forward.
Thank you, brother. That was very inspiring. I can't wait to cut this. Well, I don't edit it. I just put it out. But I can't wait to put this interview out. But I will be breaking it down.
Okay.
So this first 2 weeks, I just put everybody's interviews out. And then after I'm done with them all, I'm going to go and break them down to some segments. So like the part you just gave can be its own little 2-minute speech. And so that we can keep sharing and giving more people information to make better choices. One of the inspirations I have for this is I don't see candidates. These forums don't tell me nothing. You got 2 minutes to tell me how you're going to save the world. I'm like, wow. Come on, man. We can't even do this in 40 minutes. We're just getting started in 40 minutes to scratch the surface. But it is a good scratch, and my itch is satiated for now. Until next time, brother, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I see you out in these streets. Good luck out there. 39 more days to the day we vote. Every day matters.
Yes, indeed. Let's get out there and let's do this.
Yes, sir. Let's make it happen.
Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here.